Hi, this is Michelle from the Monadnock Center for History and Culture. Welcome to part 2 of our look at using the Peterborough Transcript online database. In this 10-minute tutorial, I'm going to show you how to use the database to zero in on the information you're looking for and show you how to virtually clip the newspaper to save what you found. To get started, we're going to go to the Peterborough Town Library website, which is peterboroughtownlibrary.org, and we're going to click on Research and then Local History. That takes us to the local history page. We'll scroll down just a little bit, and right here under New Resource, you're going to click Searchable Online. That is going to take you to the database. Now, once you've gotten here, you can bookmark this so that you don't have to go through the library's website every time you want to access the database. To get started, we're just going to do a simple one-word keyword search, and I've chosen the word suffrage because we're working on a project for later in the year to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment. And I want to get a picture of, what the suffrage movement was like in the area. So I've put in suffrage, and then I'm going to just narrow things down a little bit by adding a time parameter. So I'm going to do January 1st, 1910 to December 31st, 1919. And then I'm going to hit Discover. And that is going to take me to my search results. And here we go. I've gotten 193 results. That's a lot to try to wade through to do research. So I think what I would like to do is do it by year, and that'll help me stay more organized in my research. I've picked the year 1916, and here's my first result, which is an article on women's suffrage. Mrs. Winston Churchill speaks on women's suffrage at meeting of John Hancock Grange. Now you might be thinking, wow, the Prime Minister of England's wife came to Hancock to talk about women's suffrage. But no, this is a different Mrs. Winston Churchill. This is Mabel Churchill, who was the wife of Winston Churchill, the best-selling American novelist. They had a house in Cornish, and Mabel was a very active suffragette. Now, the reason that this one came up August 31st rather than something from January or earlier in the year is because when you're doing keyword search, your results are not presented to you chronologically. What you get for your first result is the one that contains the most times, or your keyword is found the most times within that newspaper. And this article uses the word suffrage a number of times, so that's why it's the first result. Now, let's go back to the main page and do a more, ask ourselves a more specific question. In that case, I just wanted to get an overview of suffrage in the area, but this query I'm going to do something that's much more specific. So I've been wondering, when did my great-grandfather, whose name was Rudolph Stahl, first purchased the Hancock Inn? I know that they lived there in the 20s, but I don't really know when they first owned it or for how long they owned it. So I'm going to put in his name in quotation marks. Whoops. And the reason that I put it in quotation marks is I want to ask the database to find this exact phrase. If I put it in without the quotation marks, I'm going to get every time the word Rudolph shows up and every time the word Stahl shows up. And that's going to clutter up my results. I just want to see things that specifically reference him. And since I know they lived there in the 20s, I'm going to do January 1910 to December 1919, just to see if that's when they might have first come to Hancock. So, and then I'll hit Discover, and here are my results. And I got really lucky with this one because it happens that the very first result looks like it's giving me the information I need. The little snippet that you find under each one, I'm not exactly sure how the database generates that, but it's often missing words and sometimes words are misspelled. I'm sure it has to do with the optical reading. But it says Rudolph Stahl is new proprietor of the Louse. I'm not sure what that means. So I'm going to click on that so that I can read it. And here we find the page, and it's not a front page article by any means. So I've got to kind of look around and find where it is. But the database does highlight your search terms, so here it is. I found it right there. Now it is kind of small to read, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually zoom and make it bigger. And then I'll just go back and scroll down to relocate it. There it is. Rudolf Stahl is the new proprietor of the Hancock House, and we wish him success. So I have the answer to my question. Sometime in the beginning of June of 1915 is when he and his wife came to Hancock and purchased the inn. Now, this is great information for me, and I want to save this, and I might want to share this with other family members. So I'm going to go up here to the crop tool and highlight this, and then, whoops, let's try that again. And then I'm going to hit the little next button. And this window will pop up. And this can take a little bit of time to load, so you do have to be patient. The loading speed is it's a result of both the size of your clip and how fast your internet is. But here it is. It's loading up now. And this gives you some options. You can add a title, you can put notes in, and then you can take it through several steps, and then it can be printed out or it can be downloaded to your computer and saved. I find that these tools don't work really well with our computers at the Monadnock Center. So what I do instead of following those steps through is I put my cursor right over the image of the clipping, and I right click, and you can see there, Save Image As. And so I can save this image to my computer this way. Now I'm using a PC. If you're using a Mac, it'll be a control click rather than a right click. So click on Save Image As, and that's going to pop up a save window for me. And here we go. Really nicely, the database always puts the date of the clipping right in the file name. And that's really helpful to have, especially if you end up with a lot of clippings. But the beginning part of it is sort of a standard Peterborough transcript published in Peterborough, New Hampshire. And I don't find that very useful. I already know that. So what I do is I take my cursor and go over that, and then I like to name it according to my project. And then I might put in a little note of what info I'm finding in that particular clip. This way, when I open up my folder, all of my project clips are together, and I can zero in on the ones that I want to open up and access. Once you've done that, you can print them out, you can make them big, you can email it, you can put it on Facebook. It's just a picture file, so you can use it in any way that you use a picture file normally. Now when you're done with that, you can just close the X. So that's it. 2 simple ways to really zero in on the things that you're looking for. If you find any neat tricks with this as you're using it, or you run into any problems, you can email me at director@monadnockcenter.org, and I'll be happy to see if I can help you or to learn from you. And then finally, our next 10-minute tutorial is going to be about finding and searching town histories on archive.org. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.